Hey everyone, it's the IncGamers Podcast. That's right, you're listening to it right now. I'm Peter Parish. I'm here with Tim McDonald. Hey Tim.
Hello.
Tim, you were wanting to write a meta description for a review, but we've stopped you by starting to record the podcast. Sorry about that.
This just means that people won't be able to read my words for another hour or two.
Yeah, indeed. Although it'll be already up once listening to this, so
that's doing my head in. This is that whole time thing again, because they won't be hearing that. They'll have seen it before they listen to this, but listening to this will say, oh.
Yeah. Paul Younger, have you been travelling through time?
I've gone back in time to Tim's birthday because his hair has got shorter. So I'm going back in time.
Yep. My hair also got a bit shorter since the last time I was on, which is nice.
Was that because you had it cut, or is that just passing?
It's falling out, you know.
He's a time travelling
bit of both. Little of A, little of B there. Hey, we haven't had a good old Bribery corner feature in the podcast for a while, and I'm delighted to say that Ubisoft have managed to provide us with one. It's emerged today, or yesterday when you're listening to this, let's not go into that again, there was a recent Watch Dogs preview press event in Paris, and a lot of journalists were given Nexus 7 tablets worth, after a little bit of Googling, $150 to $250 as a freebie. Not that would influence them in any way or anything. Ubisoft have put out a little bit of a semi-apology, which read, "At a recent Watch Dogs event, some media were given tablets as gifts. This was not in line with our PR policies. Apologies for any confusion." Now, I'm not particularly confused about what happened here, because what seemed to happen was that the people who were reviewing Watch Dogs got given some expensive technology as a gift, and then they got found out and had to apologise for that.
Except they haven't apologised. That's really cunningly worded. What they're saying is, this isn't in line with our policies. We're sorry if you got confused about that.
Yeah.
Like, well, why did you do it if it's not in line with your policy? Shouldn't you be apologising for doing it, not for causing confusion?
Is there a rogue PR agent just going around Watchdog events with Nexus 7 tablets, giving them out to people?
That would be an amazing basis for a Watch Dogs side quest.
Ooh, it was all an ARG after all. So yeah, this came out because not because the people at the event revealed it, obviously, because that would be the ethical thing to do. But someone, I think Steve Hoggerty, who was not at the event but heard rumours about it and started asking people, and then one of the people who was there came forward and went, "Oh yeah, actually. Oh, ours is going to charity though. It's definitely going to. It was always going to charity. That was always going to happen." By the way.
What charity is it going to?
The Games Journalists charity.
Yeah, because you can't take it down to charity shop because they don't accept electrical goods. So it must be going to some sort of auction-y thing or something.
Probably.
Apparently.
I'm sure they will, but it's kind of like, were you going to do that before this was revealed? Were Ubisoft going to say this wasn't in line with our PR policies before this was revealed?
Well,
no.
In fairness, he didn't actually have to come out and say that this happened. He could have just done what everyone else has apparently done and not said anything.
And pocketed it.
Yeah.
This seems like... I mean, I will... even on previous podcasts, I think I'll defend the free t-shirts and sandwiches aspect of press events, especially if you're trapped in a warehouse miles away from any food source. If a publisher offers you a sandwich, I think that's fair enough to eat that.
Yeah, I'll just commend the Sniper Elite people on their excellent sandwiches.
God, Paul! Now. How much do you reckon those sandwiches cost?
Oh, I don't know. At least a tenner. For everybody.
That seems reasonable. £10. What's the? I was trying to find out the local government rules for accepting gifts for like the maximum, because I used to work in local government, and there was this like zero tolerance policy on gifts, obviously. But I think there was a threshold for super cheap stuff that you could have. But yeah, like $100 plus technology devices. That seems a bit like a bribe to me. Pretty much.
See, there's a way to get around that. Is you send somebody to the press event and then you don't let them review it, and then you make someone else do it, and then you get your own back and go, ha ha, see, ha ha.
suppose that can work, yes. But maybe they should just not be giving this shit out, because honestly, it's not a good look for Ubisoft.
Isn't that what we've been doing like recently? We're sending people to press events and then not letting them write anything about the game.
I think there's. I mean, that's probably one of the reasons why we kind of stopped. It's one of the reasons, but why we stopped doing them, because it's kind of, I don't know. You kind of get such a limited time at these things, and you're under scrutiny of what you're doing, and it's very select what you're shown. You never really get a full picture of what's going on, and it all kind of seemed a little bit pointless, to be perfectly honest. And of course, then there's all this stuff that's thrown in with it as well. So it's just rather don't do them there. It's much better. Really.
Yeah, I mean that was one of the reasons. Another is that we found that it's much easier. We can upset many more PR people by just sending emails instead. We can annoy 5 PR people from different companies a day with emails if we just stay home. Whereas if we go there, it's maybe 2, 3 tops. It's not worth it.
If we don't go, we don't get tempted with Nexus 7s, and then we can feel good about ourselves by going, oh, well, we didn't accept any, because we weren't there.
Yes.
I'm actually disappointed that I've never been offered anything like that before.
I know.
I'd quite like to go, I'm not going to be bribed, piss off.
I know, that's what I put in my story. I mean, I am desperate to break a publisher tried to bribe me story, but... Yeah, I'm never at the right places.
Right, we'll have to get you some events set up in Seattle and so on then.
All right. Well, I'll go to the international, shall I? That'll be.
Yeah.
I'll report amazingly accurately on the Dota 2 matches because I know all about that game.
In fairness, considering that with the International 3 last year, they had a Fox News presenter kind of doing sort of a load of the interviews and stuff like that, and she very clearly didn't really know what she was talking about.
I remember that.
And it didn't matter, it was entertaining. She was actually really good.
I thought you were going to say that actually they do give out stuff at the International, like, don't you get like rare items and stuff sometimes?
Ooh.
Like,
not a digital item.
Yeah, but that you can sell those, Paul, for quite a lot of money.
Seriously, I sold some trading cards from a Steam game recently, and they were going for like 80, 90p each.
Whoa!
Hey,
I've got £2 on my Steam thing now, which is like I just sell everything, so I don't see the point.
I'm gonna head over to the marketplace. I'm gonna see if I can find out what the most expensive Dota 2 item I have is.
All right. So anyway. Accepting expensive gifts from companies whose game you are previewing is a bad thing to do, journalists. Just a little quick ethics tip for you there. You probably should have known that one before doing this job, but there you go. Moving on, unless Tim's found out what he was looking at.
No, still doing that. That's fine. Carry on.
Okay. Quite a few games actually announced this week. Interesting PC-related games. Firaxis at PAX East revealed Civilization Beyond Earth, which totally isn't Alpha-Centauri 2, because EA owns Alpha-Centauri, the name, so definitely
they probably just could have called it
Beta Centauri.
just Alpha Centauri 2 in quotes, or maybe not Alpha Centauri 2.
Sid Meier's, I can't believe this isn't Alpha Centauri 2. Now, in fairness, they have directly said that this isn't a direct sequel. It is inspired by the first one, obviously, because it's Civilization in space with a bit of a similar-ish theme to it. It seems like, with setting about posts on different planets and different kind of quest lines, depending on what technological approach you take to settling on the planet. It looks pretty good. Looks pretty interesting. Tim, you thought they were going to reveal a Bioshock thing. Well, I don't know that, but you kind of speculated it.
I half-jokingly speculated that Firaxis were going to be taking over the Bioshock reins.
Yeah, I thought it wasn't a bad idea, though, honestly.
Yeah, it would probably either be one of two things. It would be some sort of civilization-y thing where you're actually building Rapture or Columbia or whatever, or, as happens a lot in games these days, it would be a MOBA.
Yeah.
Where you play as either Rapture or Columbia.
I don't like that idea so much.
That's
definitely not a mobile game then.
No, this one is Civilization Beyond. It's PC exclusive. We've got it all to ourselves. So that means it's going to be great. What do we think? I haven't played Civilization in quite a while, but I'm interested in this.
I vowed never to touch a Civilization game again after I skived off university for 3 weeks to play the first game, and literally just didn't turn up for anything. So, I kind of don't even want to go there with this.
Okay. Just for your own safety and the security of the site in general, you're not going to be playing this.
It's bad enough as it is.
Fair enough.
Don't say that, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, not huge amounts revealed about it. They have said that there's kind of three. They talked about these three paths for victory, I guess, where you can either do the harmony one, where you learn to live in harmony with your planet, man. The supremacy one, where you...
the Peter Molyneux mode.
It is the Peter Molyneux mode. Yes. Supremacy, where you kind of do some weird transhumanism thing and become robot people or something. I don't know. I read this a few days ago. Or the other one.
You're just making shit up, Peter.
No, that's what happens. And the other one, where instead of living in harmony with the planet, you like terraform it to suit your population rather than your population changing to meet the needs of the planet. So that all sounds quite
terror.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, there is scope for genocide, so I'm excited by that. Obviously, on the alien worlds you can head off to, and you can try and live in peace with the aliens, or kill them all, which seems a bit mean, really, unless they're aggressive first, I suppose. Any thoughts on this beyond that at all?
Being
Please.
that we don't actually really know much about it, barring kind of a brief list of bullet points, not really. I mean, I'd be happy to see another Alpha Centauri game, and that this sort of sounds a bit like that.
Yes.
Recent Civilization games have been pretty damn good, so hooray.
Some of the more cynically
Probably
minded
great.
people. Some of the more cynically minded people were suggesting that it might only be good after they release a few expansion packs for it, suggesting that Civ 5 wasn't that good until they had a few expansion packs. I don't know if you agree with that at all.
I didn't actually play vanilla Civ 5.
Alright.
I had far too much else to do, and there was no way I was paying money for something that was going to basically devour my life for a month.
Yeah,
I wound up buying it in a sale a couple of years later, along with, I think, all of the expansions, except for the most recent one. And since then, I think I played it with a Game of Thrones mod, and that was about it. I haven't really played it much, bizarrely.
Very nice. How did the Game of Thrones recreation go?
Quite good. I think I messed up the options slightly, because it wasn't actually the world of Game of Thrones. It was kind of everyone randomly just dotted around a random landscape, so that didn't quite work.
You sure it
all the factions, all the units, all that sort of things. That was pretty good.
It definitely wasn't the Game of Bones mod then.
We didn't actually talk about that on the podcast last week, did we?
If you want to talk about the pornographic version of Game of Thrones on this PC gaming podcast, we can do.
We could.
I don't know how relevant that necessarily is.
Not very. On the other hand, let's face it, when has that ever stopped us?
Well, I did notice yesterday we had a couple of television stories because it involved the Oculus Rift, which was quite a nice tangential... actually, let's talk about that for a bit, because, okay, I know Palmer Lucky has to big up the VR now, but I don't think VR is going to completely destroy television, because I kind of don't want to always be watching TV on my own with a headset on, not interacting with anyone. That doesn't sound fun to me. It might do for some shows, for some instances, but not as like a replacement wholesale.
I will say, actually, that is stupid and will never happen. But one of my favourite things about the Oculus Rift is one little program I found which basically puts you in a cinema. Completely empty cinema, and you can have it play a video file on this sort of giant screen in front of you. And that's actually kind of cool. It is surprisingly atmospheric. It's like being in a cinema without twats throwing popcorn and answering calls on their phones.
Fair enough, yeah.
Because cinemas are shit, let's face it.
They are kind of shit. I'm not a big fan, honestly.
They're not kind of shit, Peter. They are very shit.
They're okay if you go to like a matinee performance about 2 weeks after the film's been out and you get a really good seat and there's like 3 other people in the cinema and you know 2 of those people, then it's quite good. But
well, his argument was effectively that
Anyway.
companies won't be prepared to cover the cost of shipping a big unit and obviously all the parts that go into making a TV set, and basically everything will get like, they want to take less shelf space and shippage and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah.
what really kind of flummoxed me was the fact that he was basically saying you can simulate an experience in VR. Hang on, why not just do it? Why do you need to simulate anything? I can. Okay, if I want to go on the Star Trek holodeck, okay, I have to put a VR headset on because it's not real. But I don't have to simulate watching TV, for Christ's sake.
That's really easy. I can go to the next room now and watch some TV.
I know. Honestly, he's got to big it up. I mean, they've got this big Facebook investment. He's got to really sell this, so that all the shareholders and all the people that have put shitloads of money into this are going to, oh yes, that is the future of everything.
Yes, we are going to be bigger than television.
Yeah.
You're right.
People are not going to be going to work anymore. They're going to get up, put a VR headset on, and just sit in that all day. And then they're going to sit in it all night as well because they're going to be watching their TV on it. I mean,
Occasionally
really,
taking that headset off to vomit.
honestly,
or not. Who knows?
honestly, there's I can see some of the comments that are going to come out in the months ahead. They're just going to get more ridiculous and more bullshit. I just really don't think. I don't think. Sorry, I'm just incensed.
Like, I'm not saying that it isn't going to be a niche. I mean, the other story that we had was that they're going to do a new sort of David Attenborough documentary that is going to be sort of filmed for it that you can watch on the Oculus Rift. And I can see that being,
but that's the
being
difference.
a thing. Sure.
That's like what we were talking about last week when we were saying that basically VR is only good if the game's designed for it. So if you have a production company making a TV show that designs and takes shots that would be better experienced in a virtual environment, then that is a different thing. But can you imagine going and sitting down with your family of 4, all strapping on your headsets in the lounge, of which you have to buy 4 or 5 of them, I hasten to add, which are probably the same cost as one TV.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Seems dubious to me.
But it turns out that the most expensive item I have that I can sell on the marketplace is probably worth about £7.50.
That's quite good.
Quid's in, Tim.
It's not bad. I mean, normally I sell mine for about 10 cents. So
I tend to get 10p for mine, actually, so maybe this is the one time when the exchange rate actually is favourable. Fucking hell, talking of the exchange rate, and this is going on a tangent because I like these.
Okay.
I mentioned to you guys before, I'm trying to buy a laptop at the moment, right?
Right. And as we said before the podcast started, just ask Ubisoft for one, Tim. They'll
I should do that. I'm going to wait until we get Watch Dogs code, and then I'm going to...
trade it for a 10 out of 10.
Well, a 9 out of 10. I'm not that easy.
It's a really good...
I will send their PR person an email, and I'll say, I will give this a 9 out of 10 if you buy me a laptop.
Don't do that.
Well, I'll do that after I've played it for a bit and decide that I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 anyway, or something like that. No, I'm not actually going to do that, but...
just for clarification, if there's anyone who doesn't understand irony and sarcasm.
Yeah, I'm not being serious. But I was looking at the prices of laptops. The exact same laptop in the UK and the US, it's more expensive in the UK by about £400.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's ridiculous.
A lot more than I was expecting. I was expecting
there was one laptop I saw which was something like, I mean, it was out of my price range, I wasn't going to buy it, but it was about $1,700. Found the same laptop in the UK, did the currency conversion, the UK price worked out to about $3,000. So it's practically double the price. What? How does that work? Are you shipping them from Mars?
They're shipping them from the terraformed planet from Civilization Beyond Earth.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, that's demented. Back to games, though.
Yeah, sorry.
Sony have announced H1Z1, which I think is almost a clever title. I'm undecided on it, but I think it's quite a clever title, which is their own take on the sort of open world zombie crafting survival thing, which is proving so very, very popular with Steam Early Access people especially. I suppose the interesting angle on this is, will people, now that there's one being backed by a sort of large publisher, obviously they did PlanetSide 2, etc., and I think this is using the same engine, will it hurt DayZ and Rust and all those other ones that are probably in the works already?
Well, see, this is a tough one. A lot of people don't like SOE, so a lot of people will probably stick with DayZ. On the other side, it's free to play. It's using an enhanced version of the PlanetSide 2 engine, which is decent, and they can basically take all the best bits from all the other stuff and make it into something that is quite good. And with the fact they were working on Landmark and Next and all that stuff, they've obviously been working on a lot of the sort of voxel terraforming building type tech stuff. So I don't know. I kind of feel it's a bit of a cash in, but sod it. So what? Everyone's doing it. I mean, Christ, I am fed up with zombie games. I mean, really, I am. But it's nothing new. But I think a lot of people.
Here's the thing, though. I don't think anyone's nailed that formula. I mean, some people might say that DayZ has, but I'm not so sure that it has.
I don't think it is. I think that's the difference with this is that basically it's an open world. It'll be a big world with lots of people in it, which is one of the things that DayZ has a huge problem with right now. The fact that you can only have X amount of people on a server and X amount of zombies because this problem with the code that they're trying to resolve. So with SOE's experience, they can bring a much broader, expansive world to the market, and if they are as close to releasing it as they say that they are, then DayZ could be in a little bit of shit, really, because they're not going to have a beat out for that till the end of the year. But there are a lot of hardcore DayZ fans that are going to stick with it.
Yeah, certainly. It's in that weird situation where there's a bunch of people who've probably played DayZ for tens, hundreds of hours, like probably got their fill of it even before it's out, which is kind of a weird thing to think about. But
I find it hard to go back into, basically, because there's a lot of stuff just isn't in it yet, like the vehicles, for example. I mean, when they add bicycles in, that's going to be amazing.
Yeah, but they're working hard to do ovens first.
Yeah, I know, sorry. Yeah, ovens and fire, and how to make bows and shoot things with bows.
Bows. Fair enough. But I don't know, it's every time I read one of their development blogs, I kind of think, what's happening with this game? What is this really the key thing that you need to be putting into this?
With Dean Hall buggering off at the end of the year, they better get their skates on.
Yeah, I don't know.
I would play this H1Z1 thing. I definitely would be intrigued and check it out, because it costs you bugger all. But it depends what sort of dodgy microtransactions SOE have attached to it as well.
What does anyone know what PlanetSide 2 do with that? Because that's...
I've only played it a bit. I really should like PlanetSide 2, but I just find it quite hard to get into. But I know I should like it. I think.
I don't think PlanetSide was too bad with microtransactions, not least because I think that they had fairly regular sales on, where you could basically just stockpile shit at like 50% off or whatever. You could just wait for those if there was anything you did particularly want to buy. But I don't know. I don't think it was too offensive in terms of microtransactions, honestly.
No, I think SOE are actually not as bad as most when it comes to microtransactions. I guess that's in their favour for this new game. So I think a lot of people will try it out, but there's going to be a hardcore of DayZ fans that are going to be sticking with it.
Absolutely. Same with Rust, probably. Although I'm getting worried about poor old Gary Newman making Rust, because the last development blog he put up, he sounded quite... I don't know, his first sentence was something like, "I dread putting these up because it reminds me how much I'm failing you all," or something like that. It's like, Jesus, man. It doesn't sound great in your sort of mental state, really.
Is he just kind of... Are these blog posts a chart of his declining mental health?
Yeah,
they kind of are, I think, yeah.
It's on the graph.
Is that a cry for help?
every time he puts one up, the comments are instantly like, "Oh, you said you were going to add this. Don't change this. Oh, you fucked this up. Oh, you said you were going to." Oh man.
You can't please gamers.
Well, it's tricky when you launch with a game that sort of, for its description, says it's this at the moment. We don't really know what it's going to be, but for now it's this. So that plus massive expectations from people makes for
People
a bad
have
scene.
massive expectations for a game where the blurb actually said we don't know what it's going to be or what we're going to do with it.
Pretty
What
much.
the fuck is wrong with people?
Yeah, I don't know. It's early access, folks. Hey, we might have to stop making Star Citizen jokes soon because
Never going to happen.
it's, well,
Sorry.
some of the Star Citizen jokes. Because, god damn it, it's turned into a proper game almost.
Well,
Paul, you saw it
If
in
there's
action.
if there's one thing we've learned this week, we know that Chris Robert is really shit at space sims, right?
Yes.
Now,
It's true.
one, he's playing it on a control pad. Two, he leaves the hangar and immediately crashes. Gets back in the ship, leaves the hangar, and immediately crashes for the second time. Blames
That's
it on
not an
alcohol.
exaggeration either, that he did immediately crash.
So I just want to get this straight. What you're saying is that while Elite has really difficult docking, Star Citizen has really difficult taking off.
Yeah, this is it. This is definitely a feature. I'm
Brilliant.
sure of it.
He got outside the hangar and went, alright, here's the external view. And you saw the ship cruising into like an orbital platform, exploding and breaking apart. It was magnificent.
It was pretty funny. It was even funnier when you were watching it live, and the awkward pauses and moments, and the crowd going woo. In fact, the most people got excited about the whole demonstration was when he jumps in the cockpit and then the animation kicks in and he flips the helmet on. And by the time, because he crashed twice and he had to do that 3 times, everyone's just going helmet, helmet, helmet. You know,
It is quite a cool and stylish animation, I have to say.
But it's like fuck the game. All we want is the helmet. 41 million for the helmet flip.
That'll be the next thing added for the backers.
Yeah.
It'll be in the hangar. You can walk around the hangar and put on and take off a helmet.
Yeah.
It'll be a unique helmet flipping animation, though, just for you.
Yeah. And it's going to take 3 months before they do this.
But in all seriousness, though, I mean, what they did show off, which was
being serious.
yeah, well, okay, well, what they did show off the alpha version looked really sweet. I mean, the detail on the ships was fantastic. Even when they were going up close to the asteroids and the asteroid belt, they looked, you kind of almost wanted to touch it. It was really, really nice. And some of the stuff that he did yesterday in the Q&A that was put up. You just kind of start to realise, well, the scope of this game is actually pretty phenomenal. And you kind of think, well, 41 million, you think, well, actually, they are creating a whole universe with first person. It's just the whole thing is pretty amazing, really, and I hope they do pull it off, because I'm so gonna have to just give up living and play that all the time, I think.
Oh god, that and Civilization is
I know.
dangerous. Yeah, I watched it too, and what I liked most about it was kind of the feel of the I don't know the name of the fighter he was flying around in, but it kind of reminded me of sort of older school flight sims in a way, in the way that like you kind of see the forces acting on the sort of cockpit and the chassis. It kind of looked like you're in this slightly flimsy but very powerful glass box, that can kind of come apart at any moment. There's too many space games where you're just kind of in this shell, and it kind of doesn't really feel like anything's really impacting on you at all. But in this, he was, taking quick turns, and it was shaking all over the place. Which I like.
You say it's flimsy, but when he tried to demonstrate what happens when you crash into an asteroid, the wing wouldn't break off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm using flimsy in a good sense. That it's like those old World War One flight sims where it kind of feels like you're wrestling with the physics and stuff.
Yeah, well, stuff like the blackout effects that they showed were really nice, and the G-force. And he went outside the ship, and you could see the character moving to the G-force inside. It's just there's so much attention to detail going into this that I'd be really surprised if this just isn't the best thing since. Well, I'm not going to say sliced bread this week, But the best thing ever, well, next year anyway.
The Game of Bones pornographic parody. Yeah, so there we go. And there was a full report of the live stream on IncGamers.com. You can have a read up.
Can I just thank the Cloud Imperium team for turning up 45 minutes late as well? With 20,000 people waiting to watch this thing, they decide to have technical difficulties. And it was a bit crap technically, actually, the whole thing. But what they did show was good.
So like ships in it, from what Peter was saying. They were flimsy in a good way, and so was the show itself, I guess.
So, yeah.
I don't hold out much hope for the dogfighting module getting released on time. When they tried to do the multiplayer at the end, they literally got about 3 minutes of gameplay. Then they just had to give up because his ship was just constantly spinning in a circle. It was like, oh, okay, whatever. Doesn't matter because we got helmet.
Yes. Stylish helmet flips. That's what everyone really is looking for. So from some games that are upcoming and coming out to one that has been given the axe unceremoniously, CCP Games are no longer continuing work on their World of Darkness MMO, which perhaps isn't a surprise because it was announced back in 2009, and apart from a sort of cloth physics video and a few bits and pieces about it, I don't remember really seeing much about it beyond that. So
I vaguely remember a teaser trailer, I think, that was like 30 seconds, mostly text and possibly a view of a city. I think that's about all I remember.
So
it's a shame. I was really excited for this. It seemed like it was further along than Star Citizen.
It had cloth physics. Not anymore though. Star Citizen's got ships and helmets and everything.
So what exactly were CCP doing over the past 4 years?
I don't know, but whatever it was, they weren't happy with the results, or they've decided that the MMO climate isn't so hot anymore, and they'd rather focus on Eve and Eve Valkyrie, their dogfight space shooter thing.
I'll be honest with you, I'm cynical about everything. I'm particularly cynical about most MMOs. But this World of Darkness actually seems like quite a good fit for an MMO if they do it. And if any company is going to do it, CCP would. But if they do it much like the pen and paper RPGs and so on, like if they do it not as a standard level grinding treadmill linear MMO, they actually do something a bit interesting and a bit different, like they did with Eve.
Yeah, exactly.
It seems like it would be a really good fit, but yeah, it's just sad.
No more MMOs. No more grindy, levely MMO things with no endgame and stuff, and dungeons and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, if it had just been MMO in name alone, I suppose, where it just throws a bunch of people together and has some interesting vampire mechanics and stuff like that. But the thing is, I can never really envisage how, maybe this was the problem, how that would have worked. Like, what was that game going to be? Were you going to just be like walking around the city and chatting with people, and eventually occasionally a vampire might bite you and turn you, and then you're on the vampire side, or what kind of? There's obviously going to be like a political level to it because there's all that stuff going on in Vampire the Masquerade and also in Eve.
Considering they've been working on it for 5 years, you'd think they'd fucking figured this one out by now at least.
No,
I mean you're right. There is kind of that political level in Vampire. I have to wonder if maybe this is a dreadful pun and I don't want to say it.
Do it.
I kind of wonder if maybe they'd bitten off more than they could chew.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Because it wasn't just Vampire, was it? It was World of Darkness in general. So it was Werewolf and all the rest of it, which is.
Well, I don't know. Maybe yes. I don't know. That was the problem with this. I don't know.
You don't know anything.
Not really, no.
Well, it's just the fact that it was called World of Darkness rather than Vampire. I
think even that was just a placeholder title.
Jesus.
Because it was just called World of Darkness MMO, which I'm pretty sure wasn't going to be the final name.
Maybe.
Timeline, right? They announced World of Darkness the MMO with placeholder title. They said fuck all about it for 4.5 years, and then they went, we're not doing it anymore. This is the life of the game, yeah? Have I missed anything?
No, what they did was they pulled Gary Newman into the first meeting and said, well, what's this game going to be at? And he went, well, I don't know. And they went, okay, well, we'll go with that then.
Then they got Chris Roberts in there as well and said, we're going to put it on Kickstarter. Then just no game materialised.
Yeah. But the good news, if there is any good news, is that they've said that they're looking at what they're going to do now with the World of Darkness sort of IP and license. It's still considered valuable to them. Hopefully they won't just sit on it. They'll hopefully, if they are going to do anything with it, license it out to someone else.
You want them to license it out to...
Obsidian! That's where I want it to go. But it might go somewhere shit, and then that would be bad. But
Peter, just out of interest, are there any licenses that you wouldn't like Obsidian to have a go at?
Dota 3.
You know, I'll be honest, I think I'd actually like to see Obsidian. I think that would be really interesting.
I was toying with Call of Duty, but then I thought, no, you know what? I would love to see Obsidian's Call of Duty.
That would be excellent. Be sort of like Alpha Protocol, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Which is really what you're asking for, in a way, isn't it? Really, that's where you're going with this.
Yeah.
More Alpha Protocol.
I want Alpha Protocol 2.
He wants Alpha Protocol 2. He wants Bloodlines 2.
Well, I'll settle for Obsidian licensing the Archer animation and doing Archer the game in Alpha Protocol style. That'll be fine.
I would go for that. I could also settle for Telltale doing an Archer game, actually.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be good. Oh.
No, they wanted to go with Borderlands instead of Game of Thrones.
You just made some sort of weird sexual noise there.
Gonna have some
Bob is really excited about Obsidian and Telltale and Archer. That's
certainly am. Let's move on from that quickly. Take a cold shower, maybe. Any other news, anyone? That was the news I thought was interesting. Some other stuff that was. I don't know. No,
I can't remember anything this week. It's all a blur.
Good. Well, in that case, what have we been playing? Paul, what have you played? I didn't know what you'd played, so I kind of left it blank.
You said
nothing.
You said I was to surprise you with what I've been playing this week.
Surprise me, Paul.
Guess what? It's the same as what I've been playing for the last 2 weeks.
Oh, it's the
spreadsheets.
Yeah, but I'm not going to dwell on this. I'm going to move over to Tim. But the more I play it, the more I'm liking it. There you go. Cool. It's I'm enjoying it more than I did even last week.
Wow.
Are you redoing the review then?
No, because I wouldn't change the score on the review anyway. Because I think the score is reflective, but I'm still really enjoying it. Whereas I've been playing quite a lot. A lot of the time you put something down, but this, nailed it, man.
There you go. Refer back to the prior two podcasts for Paul's thoughts on that, and just imagine him slightly more excited than he was because he's enjoyed it slightly more. Shall I go? I've been playing War of the Vikings, otherwise known as War of the Horny Hairy Bloodman.
Thank you.
Mostly known as War of the Horny Hairy Bloodman.
On IncGamers, anyway.
Yeah, on IncGamers. Slightly tricky to talk about this because they've moved from early access to like a full release, and when they did that, they slapped about 5 other maps into it, which means I'm now going to have to go back into my review and change that paragraph about there not being very many maps. Also look at those maps. And also see if they have managed to tighten up the latency, netcode optimization type issues, which it was suffering from a little bit in early access. Not in a kind of ruinous Battlefield 4 type sense, but it's tricky because it's one of those games where the kind of niche that I guess Mountain Blade Warband started with its multiplayer, which is the kind of close quarters melee combat simulator game that Chivalry fits into, and War of the Roses fits into, which is Fat Shark's previous game in this sort of semi-series. And that relies quite heavily, obviously, on precision, because you're up close, taking close quarters swings at people. It relies on kind of blocking and parrying and stuff. And so, if there's even the slightest bit of lag or latency issues, it kind of screws with you. And it's not terrible, because it's not like I'm massively invested in getting my kill-death ratio up in War of the Vikings. It's still entertaining, but it does mean that sort of every match is probably going to be affected by a couple of kills or deaths where you think, that was kind of bullshit. I'm pretty sure I managed to hit that guy, or he slightly teleported, or his swing connected faster than it perhaps should. Which, it's a sort of constant thing that's there. But it is still enjoyable. I like this style of game. I like that it's sort of developed into a little niche of its own. That does definitely rely on a lot of skill and timing and kind of mastering the combat mechanics, which is good. It's got more maps now, which is nice. The maps that we're in already were pretty good at sort of funneling people into sort of smaller clearings and little arenas to duke it out with each other, which works quite well. I mean, regardless of the mode that you play, whether it's sort of conquest where you're capturing points on the map, or deathmatch where you're just killing people, or pitched battle, which is like deathmatch except without respawning. I mean, basically, it's very much the same thing. The focus is on the combat, because every match of every type will devolve into little clusters of 4 or 5 people facing off against each other in combat. So that's the main draw of the game.
Have they still got that sort of arena mode in it? Because that was cool.
Yes, that's still there as well. Yeah, that maxes out at 5v5, so that's very much even more sort of hyper focused on being good and skillful enough to take people on, rather than, I don't know, hanging around behind people and sneaking behind them and stabbing them, which you can get away with a bit more in team deathmatch than you can in arena. So yeah, it's pretty good.
I was kind of disappointed that stuff like that happened. I was always a big fan of actually having sort of one-on-one duels with people.
Yeah. I mean, you've got bloody archers, right? Anyone who plays as an archer in this game, you know the type of person that is, who hangs around. They find a little sort of nook or cranny in between some scenery, and they hang around up there taking pot shots at people. It's like, you dick. What are you getting out of this, really? This isn't the way it's supposed to be played. It's a coward's way to play. If you're a real man, then you bust out the double-handed axe and run into combat screaming death taunts, trying to hammer people to death.
I'm a bit worried. The one thing that worries me is I don't think that my favourite thing about the beta session that I played, I don't think it's in the game.
What's that? Was that throwing an axe at Gordon Van Dyke's face?
Yeah. Well, actually, I was going to say splitting Gordon Van Dyke's head with a giant battle axe, but yeah, basically same difference.
That is in the game, but you just have to imagine the person you're killing is Gordon Van Dyke. I mean, he might be playing, you never know. If you get lucky and get the server with him on it, you'll still have that chance.
I don't have a problem with Gordon Van Dyke, it was just fun murdering someone you actually know. Wow, that was bleak.
Yep.
Maybe I should have
Jesus, Tim.
What's wrong with you?
list.
Yeah, I mean, I guess another slight problem is that it, like a lot of multiplayer-only games in a niche, that the player base is not huge at the moment. There's enough servers going around, and you can always get a game. But I did struggle to get a pitched battle mode game, because apparently none of the US servers like running that for some reason. So I mean, that's possibly going to be an issue. There's also sort of, because it's been in early access for 6 months, there's quite a steep learning curve, because the majority of the players in there have been playing this for 6 months, so they're really good and will kill you quite quickly, know all the little kind of hints and tricks and the weapon specialities, the sort of how to use the spear effectively versus the axe or the sword kind of thing. So it's a bit of a learning curve, which can be might put some people off, but if they're going to have an influx of new people as well, then that should be okay.
Well, they said today that the public servers went live at 2, so there may be more. You might have a better connectivity this time than you did previously.
I will have a look at that. That would be annoying because I would have to rewrite my entire review.
Oh yes.
But there we go. We'll see. We shall see. I think I was playing on public ones already. It was just like, US East Coast 2 or whatever it was. US West Coast 4, depending what was around. That is War of the Horny Hairy Blood Men.
Why did they call it War of the Vikings instead of that? Because that is clearly a better name.
I don't know. It's also given the Saxons a bit of short shrift because they're the other faction in there who feature as prominently as the Vikings do. Actually, my favourite thing about the game is that the super high-end... Right, you level up and there's level progression, but basically once you're at about level 10, you've got everything that you would probably want. Yeah, my favourite thing is that the high-end level items, at like level 59 or whatever, are beards. That's what you're working towards.
Excellent.
That's the right way to do that kind of thing, I think. If you're dedicated enough, you can have the best beard, because you'll have enough gold for it and you'll be high enough level.
It's kind of like playing an MMO to get the best sword, but when you get there, you're level 90, but it's a toothpick.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it does have other swords and stuff in it, which, as far as I can tell, are not any different, other than they look different. So, it's a bit of a prestige, look at me with my fancy axe type situation, which, again, I think is the right way to do this kind of thing. It rewards you for playing it and for enjoying it, but doesn't make you some kind of weird powerhouse, which never makes any sense. The more you play it, the easier it becomes for you. That's a stupid way of doing things.
Which is also quite important in something like this, which is based around sort of finely tuned skill-based combat.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, if the combat clicks for you, you can be like level 2 and be taking on someone at a much higher level. Perfectly fine, because, if you've got the skill to do that, you will triumph, which is good. I like that. Tim, what have you played?
I've been playing all sorts of stuff, but most recently that I've written about was Mobius Empire Rising, which is Jane Jensen's latest point-and-click adventure-y thing. Jane Jensen being the lady who designed and wrote Gabriel Knight and various other Sierra adventures from back in the day.
Yes.
Most recently, Grey Matter, which I own, but I don't think I've ever played because it got delayed about 3 times. Yeah, probably.
Tim, you own everything. You've never played half the stuff you've got.
It's a lot of time.
I've played more than half the stuff, just not for very long.
Looking at the screen doesn't count as playing it.
I mentioned that solely because I like Jane Jensen's work. I wanted to play Grey Matter a lot, and apparently I picked it up at some point without realising it.
Buying stuff without even being conscious of it, and now that's
maybe
quite worrying.
Maybe he gets up, it's like sleepwalking. He gets up in the night, turns the computer on, just buys a load of shit.
Hang on, I bought Grey. When did this happen?
This wouldn't happen so much if Steam actually had a setting where you could arrange your games by the newest things you've bought. It doesn't show that. You've got like alphabetical order and most played and so on, but it's terrible. Particularly with the amount of bundles that add like 10 Steam games. I can't remember what all of them are.
I think I've got a subfolder that's just entitled "Old Shit," and everything that I don't play and probably I'm unlikely to play just gets filtered into there.
Some crap I'm never going to look at. Anyway, Mobius. Hopefully not some crap that you're never going to look at, because you've in fact played it for review.
I did. I finished it pretty much. Yeah, I think over the course of sort of 2 days, I quite enjoyed it. I got quite into it. It's a good point-and-click adventure. It's maybe not good for some people. It's going to be one of those ones that is going to be utterly divisive. if you like your point-and-click adventures to have lots of really obtuse puzzles and be very focused on kind of being very cerebral, thinking things through, picking up lots of objects, using them on other objects, you're probably going to hate it. Because it's not so much to do with that. It's primarily about investigating.
Okay.
You play as a complete arsehole called Malachi Rector. I say that lovingly. And he's basically an antiques dealer with sort of a staggering degree of insight and historical knowledge. And the government hires him, sort of a secretive government agency, as you do. They hire him to fly to Venice and investigate the circumstances of a young woman's murder and determine whether or not her life reminds him of anyone from history.
Is this how secret government agencies operate? Because I'm not sure about this. I like the premise.
Do you think MI5's phoning up Fiona Bruce from the Antiques Roadshow and going,
"There's been a murder. Can you help us?"
Well, that's the thing. They're secret government agencies, so by definition, we don't know.
Yeah, but Edward Snowden's told us like all the shit that all they do is listen to our phones. They don't hire antique dealers to solve murders.
Are you
more interesting?
Are you saying that the plot for this latest game from Jane Jensen, the famous video game writer, is fictional?
I'm just saying my immersion might be spoiled when I go, but I don't think that actually this is... No, I'm sorry, I do like the premise, it's very good, and I'm eager to find out why he's an asshole.
He just is. He's very Sherlock Holmes, in a sense. He's incredibly arrogant, aloof, absolutely smarter than everyone in the room. One of the things that I most love about the game, actually, because he's an antiques dealer and he can size up sort of whether something's a fake, whether it's valuable or whatever, instantly by glancing at it. Half of the examine responses, when you examine a chair or a painting or whatever, are basically him going, "Well, that's shit." He just basically rips the piss out of everybody's decorating taste. It's amazing.
That actually sounds kind of brilliant.
It is. I actually really liked playing as him. I was quite sad when I sort of moved on, when I picked a conversation option that would sort of move me on to the next bit when I hadn't finished getting all of his responses for everything.
Hold on, I haven't finished critiquing your taste yet.
Seriously. Oh, yeah, it's great. One of the clever things that they've actually done, kind of going back to his insight and so on, is one of your options that you can use on most people and important objects, probably about 30 odd times through the game, maybe a bit less, is analyse them. And for instance, he'll look at a person, you get a still image of them with sort of 4 or 5 different highlights. And you have to pick what those highlights mean. Like, for instance, okay, this guy's got sweat on his brow. Does that mean that he's just eaten a really spicy meal, or is he nervous for some reason, or... And you kind of pick the right ones and build up a picture of what this person is, or what this object is, and whether it's genuine. And it's quite a nice little touch that's usually optional. It's a really good way of kind of getting in Sherlock Holmes-esque observation skills, in as an actual game mechanic, rather than just having him say, well, this guy's clearly going to be doing this because blah, 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 blah. It's nice that they actually found a way to turn that into a game mechanic. I'm fairly impressed by that, and it's quite good fun to do as well. It's rarely too difficult or taxing, but it's entertaining.
I think that's a good way for adventure games to go, you know, to add mechanics like that, to keep it away from always being, I'll use the roller skate on the UFO is a classic example. But
roller skate on the UFO, rubber duck on the tongs. I can't think of any other particularly good examples from adventure games.
You can certainly keep some of that stuff in there, but if you're mixing it up a bit with like actual investigatory mechanics, if you are an investigator, then that sounds really good.
Yeah, I mean, most of the mechanics in this are to do with investigation. I mean, you do have a couple of puzzles, but for the most part, they are fairly logical. There aren't really any head scratchers. It's stuff that all makes logical sense. Like, okay, you need to get up here, so probably push that crate over there. You need to get into this locked box. It's got a padlock on it, so maybe find a heavy object and smash it. It's not taxing or ridiculous. It's logical. It makes sense. And I can't remember what I was going to say, which is quite annoying. Oh well.
Never mind.
Yeah. It'll come back to me.
Pretty. So it sounds like that's pretty decent, like writing and plotting and so forth, which is.
I like the writing. I like the plot. It does fall apart a bit towards the end. The last chapter of the game pretty much takes place after the story climaxes. So the last chapter is quite dull and includes a maze, because adventure games have to have mazes.
Can you leave objects in the maze as like a little breadcrumb trail? Or
No. In fairness, it's not a particularly difficult maze, although it did kill me repeatedly because I thought it was old school Sierra design.
Yeah.
But, this is Jane Jensen, let's face it. Oh, I should add, by the way, that this has no cat hair moustache puzzles or anything like that.
Oh, that's a shame. I'm a big fan of the cat hair moustache puzzle.
But yeah, I mean, I thought it was kind of old school Sierra design, where once I'd walked through a certain number of rooms, I would immediately die. And it turned out it wasn't. It was entering one specific room that killed me, and I had to do something before then. Which did make it slightly less annoying once I worked that out. I don't know, it's not a perfect adventure game. It doesn't have a great deal in the way of puzzles, and most of the stuff you're doing is investigating. You're trying to find out information and use it to work out which historical figure this person is, if they're any of them, or if they're related to this figure in any way. And that's a really neat mechanic, but it's also not a particularly difficult one. It's not the sort of game you go to if you're looking for a challenge, but it's well written, it's got an interesting story. And for the most part, yeah, I actually quite enjoyed it.
I mean, I'd say the same about Telltale's latest efforts. You know, there's zero challenge involved in those whatsoever. You are just literally just there for the story and characterizations and stuff, and how your choices possibly direct events.
This is definitely more point and clicky than those.
Yeah,
I mean, you've got there are multiple locations you can go to. You're actually going to have to solve a few puzzles and talk to various people, do a bit of backtracking and so on, while Telltale's things are basically interactive movies.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing, they're just not point-and-click adventures.
They're interactive movies crossed with choose-your-own-adventure, but short choose-your-own adventures. They don't have that many different pages, because there aren't huge amounts of choice.
Yeah, Mobius isn't necessarily the longest game either, but part of that, I think, is because I think there were only sort of 2 points where I got even remotely stuck. And most of the rest of the time, backtracking a little bit and seeing something going, oh, okay, this is what I have to do. I think it took me about 8 hours to get through it, which isn't too bad for a point-and-click adventure. Bear in mind that you would normally be stuck for a while on most of them.
Does it have some recent quality of life things, such as pressing a button to highlight interactive points on the screen and being able to cross to the side of a screen without having to watch your guy walk all the way across? Stuff like that.
It has both of these things, Peter.
Hooray!
It has, up in the top left, you've got a little button which you can click, which highlights all of the hotspots on the screen. There is probably a keyboard shortcut for it, but I didn't find it, if so.
Well,
I wasn't really looking for it. Malachi also has a phone, which you use it various ways. I mean, that's kind of where you keep all your investigation information and so on, but that also has a built-in hint system if you really need it. And yes, you can double-click on a space and Malachi will immediately teleport there. I should add, much as I really like Malachi, because he is a gigantic arse, he is just one of the snarkiest characters that games have seen in quite some time, and that's a good thing. I don't mean that in a bad way. Most of the other characters... Sorry?
More variety in character is good.
Yeah, particularly with adventures where a lot of the protagonists are very bland. He's actually got personality. Most of the other characters are pretty good as well. Some of that probably comes down to the fact that you can kind of use his analysis on them, and that gives you a bit of a portrait of their personality. And that kind of fills in some of the blanks without them needing to actually get it across in dialogue. Which I guess, in hindsight, is kind of showing, or telling rather than showing. But
yeah, but
it's kind of forgivable because of the way it's actually integrated into the gameplay. It sort of gives you a bit more insight into them and makes them feel a bit more real. Yeah, it's good. It's not going to be for everyone. Like I say, if you're after a really clever point-and-click adventure that's going to keep you occupied for the next week, some really difficult puzzles and so on, then it's absolutely not that. But if the puzzles, if the plot sounds interesting, if the story sounds interesting, if the premise of it intrigues you, then I'd say you'll probably have a pretty good time with it.
Hurrah.
Hurrah, indeed.
That review is probably up right now. And the War of the Vikings review will be up around the time of the podcast, maybe a bit later, depends how long I have to, how much I have to rewrite and how much extra time I need to spend with it. But pretty soonish. What else do we have coming up? We still haven't got back the Chaos Reborn Julian Gollop interview, which is awkward because his Kickstarter pretty much ends probably when you're listening to this. So there we go. That's how it goes sometimes. I don't think I asked him anything Kickstarter specific, so we can still probably run it.
Oh wow, yeah, it's got 36 hours to go and it's $1,968 off.
Ooh.
That's pretty good considering a couple of days ago it was like $30,000 or $40,000 off.
Yeah, so it looks like it'll make it.
Yeah, well, that's
I think it can manage $2,000 in a day and a half.
I don't know what the rules are for Kickstarters, but surely at that point you would just ask your brother to go like, can you put a couple of grand in, please? You may as well. I don't know, that might not be in the rules and stuff, but seriously. Alright, cool. What else do we have? I don't know.
I saw a couple of things. There's, I think David's putting together a preview of Van Helsing 2 based on a special build that he got hands on with. It's different from the one that we have installed and everyone's been playing. I'm, for the sake of medical science, I've been testing out the Gunnar Optics glasses to see if that will help my what we call at home biscuit eyes, my keratoconus condition.
What?
Does that mean you appear in a lot of Iceland adverts?
Yeah, so I've been testing those out for about a week now. So I'm going to be writing something up on that with my non-medical knowledge, which should be relatively amusing, or not.
I think it will be. I'm fairly confident it will be.
So that's incoming for me, hopefully, and probably also looking at what's that new Strike Suit Zero, the director's cut as well, which will be coming up at some point when I get a minute to do.
Oh yeah, I'm also still fighting the second Punic War in the Rome 2 DLC, so I'll write something up for that probably by the end of the week.
I guess if nothing else turns up, I will probably be delving back into the hundreds of MOBAs that people keep wanting me to play.
Tim, I've got some great news for you. You should probably start on Elder Scrolls at some point, slowly but surely as well.
Oh, you've changed your mind on that, have you? There's no point in me doing it.
I'm sort of in two minds about it. Mainly,
make up your mind.
Well, we had PR on the case
Let's
this
do
week.
half a review.
Basically saying, are you guys putting a review up? And I just said, well, look, it's an MMO and we're not going to rush something up to get your score up on Metacritic, and we'll tackle it over time because there's obviously had problems.
Let's put it up next year.
Yeah, maybe. So
let's play the long game.
If I have to play it for that long, I will kill you.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. So I don't know. We will visit that at some point.
We'll find a way to address MMOs.
Yeah, we will find a way to do it. I think I've I don't know. There's been some pretty weird reviews cut up here for it in the last week or so, and I don't think they've necessarily been entirely honest. So it may be worth tackling it.
I mean, you read one yesterday, Paul. It was about 4 paragraphs long. I mean, what? 8
out of 10. Didn't even mention the combat. Brilliant.
That's That's like broadsheet newspaper reviews where they have a little video games review page in their magazine section, and they have like a paragraph on the new MMO. It's like, what's the point, man?
It's a real problem. It's a real problem, and it's only getting bloody worse. And especially for games with big budgets, like and I've had quite a high profile like Elder Scrolls. I mean, it's when you see stuff like that, it's really, really disappointing. It makes you realise the state of game reviewing right now is just pretty in a bad place.
I don't think we're that bad.
No, we're not. But we're not trying to rush out, to hit embargo dates or anything like that. So it's
sometimes we do.
Well, sometimes we try to.
We can hit them.
But we're not going to kill ourselves over it.
In the rare cases where we have something a week in advance and we think, oh, you know what, I might actually finish this game in time, then we will try to.
If we get code reasonably early, even sort of 3-4 days, then we can probably do something with it, unless it's something gargantuan like an MMO.
Yeah.
In which case, it's going to take a while. Otherwise, we're just going to write something that probably bears very little resemblance to the truth, or at the very least doesn't say much of any use.
I mean, it may be absolutely brilliant now. We don't know. I mean, you played it in the beta, Tim, and it could be really, really good. But I'm not.
I think I said to you. I mean, I did play it briefly when we got the code in, and then I stopped because you told me to. But what I played of it, I did actually reasonably enjoy, like more than I did the beta, certainly. I don't know why, because I haven't played it enough. But I need to play it more to figure it out.
Well, we'll have a little powwow about that then.
Yeah.
We'll figure something out.
By which we mean Paul will shout at me until I to do it.
I never do that, Tim.
We'll also have Trials Fusion review at some point, because I just got review code for that. The embargo date for that was, today, the day you're listening to this, which wasn't great, because that only gave me 24 hours. Probably not going to write the review for that date.
No.
I think the problem there is that the console ones come out on the 16th, but the PC one isn't out till like the 24th or something like that. So anyway, but the embargo date for all of them was the 16th. So there we go.
Well, in that case, check back for before next week, and we'll be able to tell you whether the PC port is any good.
Yeah, probably. Although it also says it's got a day one patch for fixing all these things, so I can't. So it's going to be extremely difficult for me to talk
Hang
about.
on. This has been a podcast where we have not mentioned Dark Souls 2, which surely must be a few days away from release.
Yeah, but we still managed to mention fucking Star Citizen, didn't we?
Yeah.
Dark Souls 2 is coming out in 10 days' time. We still do not have review code for that, despite it being promised and coming out soon and all that malarkey. But yeah, we'll see about that.
What if Obsidian made Dark Souls 2?
Oh, I don't know. That would be confusing.
I don't know whether I'd like that, honestly.
Because I like what FromSoft is doing with Dark Souls, so I'm fine with that one. I don't need Obsidian to fix it.
Would you like to see FromSoft do Call of Duty?
Yes. Absolutely. I don't know, I mean, I haven't really played any of their other... I mean, they do all these other titles. They do like Armored Core and like that.
Yeah.
And that one where you're a robot and also the President of the United States or something.
Oh, did they do that? Metal Wolf Chaos?
I think so. I think they did. Might be wrong about that.
I can't believe they didn't release that over here. So sad.
Wait, hang on. From software.
Oh, look at this, live researching.
I need to know if that... yes, that was developed by From Software. In game more unlike Dark Souls, you are unlike to find.
I just want to, in case you've never heard of Metal Wolf Chaos, can I just read a little bit of the plot description from that, because it is the world's most ridiculous plot. Michael Wilson, a relative of Woodrow Wilson, becomes President of the United States. Vice President Richard Hawke decides to usurp his presidency, shifting the armed forces' loyalty to him and attacking Wilson with their support. Hawke begins a reign of terror and makes numerous detrimental actions as president, from reinstituting slavery to committing outright atrocities. However, Wilson escapes from the White House in his powered armour, and after reaching Air Force One, flees to the west coast of the United States.
Yes.
Then begins to take America back.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like your kind of game,
President
Peter.
of the United States in a giant mech suit.
Well, I mean, it sounds like Peter's kind of game, what with like atrocities and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. and ridiculous plots.
Yeah.
It's based in America as well. It's all good. Yeah, go watch some of that on YouTube. It's well worth it. Just to stop some of the voice acting and the plot and stuff.
And yet they never released it in the West. It was Japan only. That's so sad.
Maybe the bringing back slavery aspect might have been a bit too controversial.
Maybe they thought that Americans would get quite offended by it.
Maybe.
I don't know. Well, the slavery part, yes, but the rest of it's just too absurd.
Well, this was
offended
2000. This was 2004. We have seen some very unusual reasons for people not to bring games across. I mean, hell, Dark Souls nearly didn't make it over.
Tragedy.
Mm.
Anyway, that's enough rambling on the podcast, I think.
I think so.
We'll be back again with another podcast. Guess when? Next week. Goodbye.
Bye!